Chapter 11. Cassie took me to a little watering hole at the other end of town, which wasn't far from the hotel. It was a run-down little bar with faded paint and chipped walls. We walked in, and I was surprised how busy it was. Most of the tables were full of animated people talking and laughing. A few waitresses were weaving through the mild crowd, delivering drink orders with perfect precision. We walked over to the bar. There were several shelves hung on the wall, and upon them sat one of the largest inventories of booze I had ever seen. Bottles of all shapes and sizes lined across the wall behind the bartender. While the rest of the establishment seemed very run down, the bar itself appeared to be in mint condition, freshly polished wood top with shiny brass accents. Cassie, the bartender said happily in a loud, booming voice. Carlos, buenas noches. Two for me and my friend, please, she said. Carlos dove behind the bar and produced two shot glasses and a large bottle of tequila. On my tab. You got it, he said with a laugh. Cassie pointed me toward a small table in the back near a set of stairs. I pushed my way through and sat down. Cassie slammed the glasses and bottle down with a bang. You drink? I do, but until now I've never gotten drunk. Oh, the demon, right, she said as she opened the bottle and set up the first shots. What? You meant the demon that possessed you, right? I did, but how did you know about that? Everyone knows. The legend of the Corba family is common knowledge to most demon hunters. You're like a celebrity. So everyone knows more about my life than I do. Depends. How much do you know? She said as she slugged a shot back. I followed, and I discovered drinking without the demon was a completely different sensation. The drink burned along my tongue and down my throat, and I could feel the alcohol rushing into my brain. A little more than I used to, but I guess there's always more. I don't know the whole story by heart. I just remembered that I had heard you were possessed by a demon. That has changed? Yes, it got out. How did that happen? She asked, and planted another full shot glass before me. I took it and slammed it down. Some psycho, Sam Abaddon, released it. Now it wants me dead so it can destroy the world. Sounds fun. What brings you here? Ivar says he knows someone here who may be able to help me. Ivar? Cassie's eyes lit up. Ivar is with you? She asked with definite interest. Yeah, back at the hotel. You know him too? Sure, I haven't seen him in years. How is he? Scary. Weird. Annoying, I said. Cassie downed another drink and laughed her softly to herself. That's Ivar, she said with a smile. She filled up her glass again. She so didn't look like the type to be a demon hunter. She looked as though she would be more at home backstage at a Rolling Stones concert. So what's your story? You never believe me, she said. Try me. The last couple days have gotten me believing a lot of things, I said. She looked at me with a hard, concentrated look. It seemed like she was having a hard time debating whether or not to tell me what she figured to be too much for me to handle. She grabbed her glass and swallowed it down. Fine, but I warned you, she said. I wasn't sure why, but my innate natural curiosity spiked. My ears shut out all of the background noise, and I focused as best I could on Cassie's next words. I am a cupid. What? You heard me. I am a cupid. You mean like those wicked kids who shoot people in the ass to make them fall in love? It's not as simple as that. I come from a race of fairy-like creatures known as the Americi. They control and share the emotion of love within the mortal realm. The bow and arrow shtick went out with the 16th century. I wasn't even aware of my past until recently. I used to think I was a perfectly normal human, but as my psychic powers grew, I realized something was wrong. So it's true, you guys go around making people fall in love? Some do. Centuries ago, the Americi came together and modernized the operation. It works like the CIA now. Everyone gets assigned to their territory and such. So you're not a demon hunter. Yes, I am. I was born in Americi, but I was raised as a human, and that's what I knew. They offered me my place among them, but this is the life I want. I've learned to use my powers as an Amarisi to hunt demons. Unfortunately, my powers are out of control sometimes, and I inadvertently inspire certain feelings in people. Like what? What do you think? Love. Just being in my presence amps up people's receptors, and they tend to focus on me. I don't do it on purpose, but most men I meet tend to fall in love with me, she said. I sat there silent, her words soaking into my brain. She was looking at me as if in anxious anticipation of my first reaction. You're right, it's hard to believe, I said at last. She smiled and poured another drink for herself. For the last few years, I've been what might call the resident demon hunter around here. I've done my traveling, tore through a vampire colony in England, hunted a water nymph in Scotland, she said wistfully. But it seems as far as I go, I always end up back here in good old Diablo Ludo. Check this out, she said as she reached into her vest. She pulled out a long, thin wooden spike and held it up to me. It looked old and had a deep red stain on the point at the end. I have staked nearly 300 vampires with this stake alone. Feel it, she said. It was a long piece of dark wood, one tip thicker than the other, looked to be standard issue. As I held it in my hand, I could feel a vibration coming from within it. It's buzzing, I said. Kassie gently plucked the stake up and slid it back into her vest. Vampires and creatures like them tend to leave a psychic imprint on things they come into contact with. This stake contains a psychic memory of over 300 vampire slayings. I still stake him with it, but these days it works better to attract them. Why would you want to attract a vampire? It comes in handy. Trust me, you'll learn. But this isn't a career thing. Once Ivar and I fix this demon situation, I'm out, I said. Kassie looked at me with a serious look on her face. You're kidding me. You're kidding, right? She asked. No, but you're a Korba. I know, but I can't live a life like this, chasing monsters. Being a demon hunter isn't like being an accountant or lawyer. This is who you are. You can deny it all you want, but nothing will change. What about you? You're a Cupid. You chose to be a demon hunter, I said. Kassie stared off into space for a moment, but then returned to reality. No, not really. This was meant to happen. I truly believe no matter what choices I would have made, I'd still be here doing what I do. I was meant to be a demon hunter. It was destined. Destiny? Seriously? Don't believe? No. No, there is no destiny. There's just what does and doesn't happen, I said. I felt heat rising through my body. Most of the rookies say that their first time, she said. I jumped up from my seat, knocking my chair back. The room froze and all eyes were on me as I stared down at Kassie with burning eyes. Don't talk to me like you've got me all figured out, I barked. She stood up and clamped her hand down onto my shoulder. Easy, cowboy, she whispered. Calm down and sit. Most folks here don't care for violent outbursts. I felt my brain regain its composure and I realized where I was. I grabbed my chair and slid it back and sat down. I know it's tough to accept, but the sooner you do, the better, Kassie said soothingly. I just think I began, but Kassie slid a glass in front of me. Stop. Drink, she said. We continued to drink for another few hours. We veered away from discussions about my family or the D word, which was just fine with me. Kassie started to talk about her family. Her father was a well-respected doctor, and her mother was a society matron. They offered her the best life had to offer, but Kassie had no use for any of it. She had played along with their plans for her future, but when she turned 18, she struck out on her own and pursued her own path. She had a lot of interesting stories about drifting from one end of the country to the other. As she recounted her endless adventures along Route 66, I was beginning to see a light behind her eyes. I was getting the impression I was the first human being she had talked to in a long time. Do you have any friends? I asked. She looked at me awkwardly. That's a heck of a question. Well, I asked. She thought on my words for a moment. I've met a lot of people over the years. The faces pass back and forth so often, I have trouble remembering names. I get that. What about friends? People you trust and care about? No, I can't say I have too many of those. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm fine with it. We make sacrifices to live the life we choose. Just a part of life. I guess demon hunting isn't conducive to a healthy personal life. Among other things, it can be a lonely life, I admit. It's Hard to find people who understand me and why I do what I do. I understand. You're drunk. All the better to understand you, I said with a giggle. Our eyes held each other for a moment, and the warm feeling I had in the pit of my stomach when I first saw her was growing. It's getting late, she said. I just then noticed we were the last two patrons in the bar. I looked at my watch, but my eyes blurred, and a rush of blood hit me. Yeah, this was fun. I guess I'll see you around. I guess you will, she said. I pushed myself up from my seat, but my legs gave out and I fell to the floor. Cassie ran over and pulled me back up, but I was unable to get my footing. I think I had a little too much to drink, I said. Cassie wrapped my arm over her shoulders and tried to walk me to the door, but stopped. Yeah, me too. I can't carry you. I can't stay here, I said. Sure you can. I can? Yeah, my room's just upstairs. Your room. You heard me. Is that a good idea? What, you think I won't be able to resist your charms? She said with a hard laugh. I do have pretty nice charms, not to mention a big smile. I'll admit you're cute, but you are way too green for me, sweets. Even though I'm a Corva? Come on, Cassie said as she turned me around and took me to the stairs in the back of the bar that led up to some rooms above it. I struggled up the creaky steps as best I could. I held tightly to Cassie with one hand and the banister with the other. We finally made it to the top, and I saw a small hallway extend before us. Walked over to the second door on the right, and Cassie forced it open. She pushed me in, and it was dark until light came on. Her room was small and quaint, just like mine. There was an old brass bed up against the wall with a fluffy pink quilt on it. Cassie turned me around and pushed me down onto it, and then began to pull my shirt off. What are you doing? Making you comfortable. Lift your leg, she said, and as I did, she slipped my shoe off. Is that all? Don't push your luck, she said with a smile. She pulled off my other shoe, grabbed my legs, and spun me round onto the bed. We're sleeping, okay? Whatever you say, I said. I wasn't even sure what I was thinking. My brain had disconnected. I laid there still for a moment. I could hear Cassie doing whatever it was she did to get ready for bed. She finally came around the bed in a tight t-shirt and some skimpy shorts. You asleep yet? She asked as she crawled under the covers. Not yet, I said, and I felt my arm slowly reaching over to her. She grabbed it and gave it back to me. I'm giving you a pass on this because you're drunk. Probably for the first time, but you really need to sleep. I know, I just thought we were connecting. We were, Jake. Honest? There was a time I would jump your bones in a New York minute. Then why not now? I'm easy, even when I'm sober. I can't. Why not? I asked. Cassie then turned to me, and even through my drunken haze, I could feel the gravity of her eyes. I envy you, she said. Why? Because I barely remember what it was like before all this, before the demons, before the hunting. There was a time my life was simple, predictable, and totally boring. I see you now, and it all comes back to me. How blissfully ignorant I was before my life was turned upside down. I love my life now, but there are times I miss who I was. I wonder about what I could have had if not for all this. A husband, a family, who knows? You're at the beginning of a great journey, she said. I could see a tear forming along her cheek. I instinctively reached out to wipe it away. Cassie tried to resist my touch, but finally relented. Her skin was soft and warm. I'm sorry. It's not your fault. Someday, maybe you'll meet someone and you'll know what I'm talking about now. But right now, I'm not thinking about demons. I'm just thinking about the beautiful woman next to me who is about the only person on earth who knows what I'm going through, right? And how completely unlonely I feel right now, you know? Yeah, she said and smiled. I reached over again to wipe another tear from her cheek, but before I could pull back, she had her hand wrapped around my wrist. She gently pulled me closer, and just as my eyes began to close, I felt the sensation of her warm lips on mine.